Welcome back, everybody, to Zlatan's Fight Picks. Today, we're going to do the recap for UFC 292, Sterling versus O'Malley. We won't do it in order of the lineup. We'll do it in order of our picks from most confident to least confident, just because just because it seems like the right thing to do. All right, well, let's talk about the fights. We'll go over our 60%, our most confident pick with Wei Lee with against Lemos. I mean, most confident picked. Obviously, during that fight, Wei Lee completely dominated. 5 rounds of domination. Lemos was very tough. She's very durable. She did have a couple of really big moments with some submissions and a couple of really big strikes. It wasn't a whole lot, but the stuff that she did have was very dangerous and fight-ending potential. But nevertheless, Wei Lee outgrappled her relentlessly, and the improvements in Wei Lee's game is enormous. I don't know, she looks really unbeatable right at this moment. Top of her game, that's for sure. But she was the most confident pick, and she definitely won in that fashion. Next fight, what was it? Tavares and what's his name? Weidman. Yeah. You know what? Tavares is one of the more confident picks, and I had a feeling he was going to win. But I got to admit, Weidman coming in at 39 after all this huge layoff with such a bad leg injury, he actually had some moments. And you know what? When he was blitzing forward, throwing his hands, he was catching Tavares and actually hurting Tavares. Either Tavares' chin is slipping, which it might be, but Weidman's shots seemed pretty powerful, pretty accurate. Most of the time, he was kind of laying back, and Tavares was chewing up the leg. Of course, Tavares had great takedown defense. I think Weidman might have taken him down one time, real briefly. But nevertheless, I think Weidman was hanging back too far, and he was seriously hurt. He had to switch stances. He could barely stand on one of his legs, on his right leg, and then he even had to eventually switch stances. It was his left leg. Was his left leg? Uh, yeah, it was his left leg, and then he had to eventually switch stances and put his right leg in front, which is the leg I think that got broken really bad. Nevertheless, he was pretty much a one-legged fighter through most of the fight due to Tavares' leg kicks. But Tavares couldn't put him away, And I hate to say it, but I mean, I kind of looking forward to seeing him fight. I don't think Weidman's going to be fighting at the level where he's going to be competing for a belt, even though that's what he says. So he's got two choices: either retire, knowing that he can't beat the top guys if he can't beat Tavares, or he's going to have some mid-range type of fighters in fights and make some paychecks. And there's people who want to see him fight and win a few more fights in the UFC before he retires, since he was forced to kind of out of the game a little earlier than he wanted to be. So nevertheless, Tavares was a high confidence pick. Tavares did win. It wasn't in stellar dominant fashion, but he did win all the rounds. Gary, yeah, we had him in third, but really, he was a high confidence pick as well. He could have been the first one. And as I said, when he was fighting Magny, and he dominated Magny, and it was all kicks. I was saying that he could win this fight by just kicking, and he just kicked the hell out of Magny's leg. I mean, the first kick, hurt Magny's leg, and Magny was basically a one-legged fighter within a minute of the fight starting. And of course, Gary at range, the kicking was fantastic. Magny's, he's at the tail end of his career. He wasn't able to use his 80-inch reach, which he normally does, which forces people to go into the clinch with him, which is where he wants to be. But Gary, you know what? He didn't have an 80-inch reach, but he did have really long legs, and they were more than good enough to keep Magny in the distance with his hands, and Gary close enough to be able to strike the hell out of his legs. And it was a dominant fight. And good to see. I mean, Gary's up and coming prospect. He just seems like a little bit of a douchebag. Actually, I never saw him be this much of a douchebag before. I saw him being arrogant, but I mean, just how he acted towards Magny, it was not necessary. I don't know if he was just trying to be Conor McGregor-ish, but he just came off like a douchebag, where Conor McGregor is cocky. I mean, he's very cocky, but he's not a douchebag, and nobody doesn't. Everyone likes Conor McGregor. They like his attitude, his swagger, but I think Gary hasn't mastered that yet. So it wasn't a good look. So, nevertheless, moving on. Rodriguez, you know what? He's a high confidence pick, in the top four, and he dominated to Of course, he right from the get go. There was I don't know if Rodriguez even threw a punch. He just immediately took Tulin down, and Tulin was done right after that. The fight did end with an illegal strike to the back of the head, which basically put Tulin almost unconscious. And there was another strike after, and the ref jumped in. But nevertheless, I think the end was inevitable. It was going to happen one way or another. And Rodriguez won in dominant fashion. He's going back to his roots. He's got to use his takedowns. He doesn't need to strike with strikers, especially with such a good ground game. He did something that was very smart, and he can start winning again. He can strike with the grapplers, and he can grapple with the strikers, right? And it's a good game plan. So totally dominated. Won within like the first minute of the fight. It was definitely domination. High confidence pick, Batista. Wow, well, we got lucky with this one. I'll tell you that much. But I don't know. I mean, Blackshear looked phenomenal. I mean, every time I see Blackshear, he impresses me more and more and more. I always consider him slower, and every time I see him, he seems like he's picking it up. He's being a little faster kicks, faster punches. His grappling, better positions, better transitions. Every time I see Blackshear, he impresses me more and more. And, this fight here in particular, I like Batista, but I've never really seen Batista fight the upper echelon. He's been killing the lower echelon, and he hasn't really fought anybody. So Blackshear was somebody I wanted to pick, but due to the quick turnaround, I mean, 7 days, I think it's ties a record, or it's the second shortest turnaround. And I was really questioning Blackshear's, basically endurance with doing the second weight cut, and he looked fine. And tell you the truth, I actually thought Blackshear might have taken this one, but again, I've got to pay more attention, and it's to the UFC darlings. There's certain people that are UFC darlings, and judges and UFC want to see them win. And Batista is one of the guys they've been building up for that. And Blackshear almost derailed that plan for the next big fight with Batista, because he's pretty popular. And they gave it to Batista. Questionable, but even though Batista in the third round was doing great and was starting to take over, I mean, the first 2 rounds, I don't think they went his way. Nevertheless, moving on. Halabao, mid-range confidence. He was our first underdog we were picking, and he fought, Hubbard. And, Hubbard came out really good, and, had great strikes on Halabao, took Halabao down, was starting to grind him out. And I was worried for a little while there, but I didn't pick Halabao because of that. I mean, I think Hubbard had an advantage as far as maybe wrestling and consistency and, stamina. I mean, he's a well-rounded fighter. He's a little boring. I picked Halabao because of his explosiveness. His explosiveness with the strikes, the explosiveness with his submissions. And in the second round, when he was on the ground, and I think Hubbard took him down. I think then he tried to get him in an arm bar, and Hubbard was trying to get out of it. And as he transitioned to get out of the arm bar, Halabao did, it was one of the best transition to arm triangles I've ever seen. Like, it was just like second nature. It was amazing. As Hubbard was spinning to get out of the arm bar, Halabao had his leg perfectly in position where he just kind of fell into his leg and into the triangle. It was amazing. Like Halabao definitely is a good submission artist, and I think even he said at the end of it he didn't want to let the cat out of the bag and show everybody all his tricks, but it was unbelievable. It was like high end transition grappling into a submission, and once he got Hubbard in it, he was no way out of it. He had to tap. So again, picked him because of his explosiveness. Um, I mean, to me, Hubbard might have been one of the darlings. It was a very iffy pick because of that. If it went down to a decision, I have a feeling Hubbard, with his stamina and with how much everybody likes him, I think he might have squeezed out a decision. Nevertheless, moving on. Mid-range, next underdog, Mearshart versus Petrosky. You know what? Like I said, everybody was underestimating Mearshart, and it was a split decision loss. Unfortunately, we picked Mearshart. I was expecting a close fight, but I was expecting a split decision win on Mearshart's part. Also, I thought Mearshart could catch him in a submission. And as well, if from my perspective, I thought Mearshart won the fight. I thought he won the first round. I thought he lost the second round because he got tagged and he got hurt at the end of the second round, and he won the third round. He dominated the third round at the end of it. So the thing was the first round. In the first round, Mearshart was, I don't know if he outstruck him, but the quality of the strikes from Mearshart were a lot better. And the only difference was Petrosky took him down in the last 15 seconds and basically did nothing. Fell on top of him, and as he fell on top of him, Mearshart got him in an upside down triangle, and Petrosky had to wait because if he moved anywhere, he was going to get submitted. So he just kind of lied there on top of him. So depends how you judge that one. I judge him well as the guy's actually going for a submission and controlling the guy, even though he was on the bottom. So I thought Mearshart would have won this fight, but it's one of those things. I don't know. I think they want Petrosky to win. They're kind of promoting this guy as, for the next few fights to be moving up, but Mearshart exposed him, and he's not that good. And Mearshart's not that bad. Like I said, we had recency bias with how bad he did against Pfeiffer, but Pfeiffer was an excellent striker and just destroyed Mearshart. Nevertheless, that was our first mistake. That sucked. But nevertheless, moving on. Sterling. Sterling, lower confidence pick. I picked Sterling. There is a parlay I had where I actually switched Sterling with O'Malley. There was other mistakes in the parlay that didn't make it happen, but I did pick O'Malley in one of them just because, half of me wanted to pick O'Malley just because of the dynamic striking and Sterling being, having the ability of being knocked out. But nevertheless, I thought Sterling was going to pull through, maybe get enough ground time and backpack him 1 or 2 rounds and steal this fight, just like he's done all the other ones. He's basically never really dominated any fight. Nevertheless, Sterling won the first round, in my opinion. He did enough kicks, he did enough damage, he stayed on the feet, he conserved energy. He was doing it right. He won the first round, and you know what? In the second round, he could have still possibly continued with the same game plan, but O'Malley started getting loose, stuffed some takedowns, and at the right time, timed the perfect right hand. Nevertheless, O'Malley's the champ. Surely that was the underdog that we should have picked, but nevertheless, it's too nervous. There's too many ways that things can go wrong. But again, even when I made my assessment is going to the 5th round, 5 rounds. I probably should have picked O'Malley because he's one of their darlings, and again, going to the 5th round, 5 rounds to decision, O'Malley's won a decision against Yan, and I thought he lost that fight against Yan. Certain guys are definitely popular and are beneficial. It's beneficial for the UFC for them to win. Nevertheless, Sterling lost. I don't know what he's going to do. O'Malley's going to be, I don't know how long O'Malley's going to be there. I think Peter Yan had beat him at last fight. If he fights with Peter Yan again, he very well might lose. I think Merab, with his non-stop takedowns and how tough he is, beats O'Malley. So, but again, being the sweetheart, going to any decision, I mean, O'Malley could still beat everybody, right? I guess if you don't finish O'Malley, you could still lose in the decision, right? Nevertheless, moving on. Munoz, you know what? Here's the thing. Munoz was faster, but the harder strikes were coming from Vera. And this is what I was scared of is Munoz. What I was hoping Munoz would at some point after the first round, because he won the first round. But I think they gave Vera the first round, of course, because it just looks like he always does more damage. Plus, he's got thick skin. He never cuts. He never bruises. I don't know, like the guy is, I don't know what he's made of, but the guy doesn't show any damage. But everyone that he fights shows a lot of damage. So in the judge's eyes, it always looks worse for the other guy. I was hoping Munoz would start grappling. There was one point in the second round where Munoz faked the takedown, and the reaction you got from Vera was huge. And when Vera was getting back up, Munoz tagged him with a really good 1-2. I mean, I don't know why he didn't do that more. He had a huge grappling advantage. He could have used it not even just to grapple, but just a couple more feints to get Vera to put his hands down and hit him, because he hit him with a good 1-2 and a kick. It was. I thought he was going to start doing it. I thought, okay, fine. It looked like he was going to start taking him down, or at least pretend to take him down, and it actually worked. And then he stopped. He never did it again. So yeah, they you know, hoping, but I guess a leopard doesn't change his spots, right? So I kind of went on a limb with that one. You know, it was a good underdog. I thought he had a good shot, and he did have a good shot. And yeah, it just wasn't going to happen. And again, when it comes to decisions, you know, something I got to pay more attention to is Vera is always going to get the better look. I mean, there was a judge who actually scored all 3 rounds for Vera. And I think in the second round, was it in the second round? Munoz dominated Vera, outstruck him by a large margin. It wasn't even close as far as I saw. Like, and then somebody gave Vera that round. And there you go. There's that, always that judge, right? And I think that, again, Munoz is not so much the darling as Vera is. And I think it would have made, they didn't want Vera to lose because they want to set up the O'Malley rematch. There you go, eh? Sometimes you got to put more thought into it. You don't want to be like a conspiracy theorist, but the fact is that if they could sway it in a better way, where how can I put it? There's fights that people want to see. So if they could sway it within reason, or just a little bit on the border, like gray area, to set up fights that people want to see, I mean, judges are human too, right? So, nevertheless, that was an underdog. It didn't work out. Moving on, I got of course, I always put the girls at the bottom end of it, just because of the unpredictability and how close everybody is. But these girls won in decisive fashion. Natalia Silva had a good fight against Lee. Lee, like I said, a solid fighter, just doesn't do enough. You know, on the feet or on the ground, she just doesn't do enough. She's good, but she's just always going to get a decision against her. And Natalia, much faster, better kicker, kept it on the feet, just way more accurate, way busier. I mean, even hurt Lee a couple times where she staggered her, which is good because that just shows Natalia's power. A lot of people can't do that to Lee. She's a very tough girl. And Natalia dominated this fight. It wasn't even close. Karina Silva versus Moroz. She definitely came back and how can I put it, vindicated herself, or extracted revenge on Moroz with this submission, because Moroz had submitted her, like, you know, 6 years ago or something like that. It was a while ago. Nevertheless, Karina Silva, again, dominate, great punch. You know what? I was really impressed. What I was really looking for is to see how well Karina is striking at this level, because Moroz is probably the highest level striker that she's gone up against. So Moroz is a pretty good boxer. And Karina rocked Moroz. And she had great kicks. And you know what? Her striking is definitely on point. And this just goes to show that she's not just a submission person. She can win the striking battles until she gets to the ground. That's what it showed me, is at this level, she can compete with Moroz and even knock Moroz down. She Yeah, definitely keep an eye on her. She's going to be a huge favorite next time, though. But nevertheless, dominating fashion, submitted Moreau's right within one. Like Moreau's tapped within 1 second of the round being over because she had her in such a tight choke, and she won. Uh, the least confident was Gibson, and I thought Gibson was more explosive than what's his name? What's that guy? What's that guy? Katona, the Canadian Irish guy. Katona definitely is going to have the advantage in the durability and probably stamina. And I was hoping Gibson would have enough at the underdog price tag to take this fight. And sure enough, I think Gibson won the first round. He put pressure on Katona, kept going after him. And you know what? I would just needed Gibson to last and take the second round because I thought Katona was going to take the third round. And 4 minutes, 20 seconds into the fight, Gibson was dominating the second round against Katona. And in the last 40 seconds, he got caught, he got rocked, and he was in a little bit of trouble. The strikes were still in his advantage. I mean, because he was dominating over 4 minutes of it. But in the eyes of the judges, that when he got hurt at the end of the second round, stole it for Katona. And the third round was going to be hard to win from Katona because he has got such a high durability and stamina. So, but you know what? To Gibson's credit, he came out and the first 3 minutes of the third round, he was winning. And of course, in the last 2 minutes of the round, Katona took over and he started putting it on Gibson, and that stole the second round. There you go. If he had for 40 more seconds in the second round, Gibson could have stolen this decision. And it would have been a majority decision, which again goes to show, like, what is the judge looking at? Somebody gave Katona 30-27 when it was clear that, Gibson had won the first round, But there you go. Like, I mean, who does the UFC want to win? Where's the bigger payout? Where's the bigger promotion, right? I don't know. To me, Gibson definitely was close. He didn't quite do it. He had it to another 40 more seconds in the second round. He would have pulled off a decision, and that's what I was hoping. But Katona is a very smart fighter, and both times he was losing the first round, and guess what? He was just saving it, and all of a sudden he won the last round. He's very smart, and that just goes to show you could be winning for 4 minutes of it, and as long as the judges see the last minute that you're winning and you put it on that guy, chances are you'll win that round. It's unfair, but it seems like that's how it's working. Nevertheless, overall, we did pretty good. I mean, we did 1, 2, 3, 4. So we did 8 out of 12. I mean, it's not stellar, split decision. That could have gone either way. This was almost in our direction. Disappointment. Yeah, well, Sterling got knocked out. It was okay. Not bad, not great. Definitely wanna do better than 4 wrong. I don't like that. I mean, anything more than 2 wrong, I don't think is a good week. But so it's just a very average week. I guess it's kind of like what everybody else is doing on the internet. They